Why, hello there. I'm Sin. We are in the Book Nook, and today we're going to talk about a book that was shortlisted for the Booker Prize in 2024 and also won the Women's Prize in Fiction in 2025. And that book is The Safekeep by Yael Van Der Wouden. This takes place after World War II, and you still have the after effects of the war that are in the undertones of the story and what's going on. So it's in the Netherlands, it's 1961, and there's this woman named Isabel who I believe is like in her 30s and lives in this house, and she takes care of the house. She lives there all alone. She has two other brothers. One of them named Lewis, who, when their uncle passes, that house is supposed to go to him, but Lewis is kind of like, he's like a business guy, and he's always like, he'll date someone but never stay serious about any of them. So, like, Isabel and the other brother are all like, oh, Lewis is seeing someone again, da 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 da. So, like, the house is supposed to be there. So, if he ever decides, like, he one day wants to settle down and get married, then the house will be his. But Isabel is like, well, that's kind of sucks because she wants to stay there and she wants the house, and what is she gonna do, you know? So Lewis one day comes home with this woman, Ava, that he brings out to dinner, and Isabel and her other brother take like an immediately disliking to Ava. Ava's like, she's got bleach blonde hair and she seems kind of ditzy and just like she's trying to project like what someone wants her to be is the vibe they get. And Isabel like immediately dislikes her. But I don't get the vibe that Isabel likes very many people at all. She seems very bitter and very like disagreeable. And so at some point, Lewis has to go away on business and he's like, hey, Ava's gonna stay with you in the house. Like, there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it because technically it is gonna be Lewis's house and it is Lewis's house. But here's the weird thing: it was Ava's idea for her to stay with Isabel, and he's like, "Oh, Ava loves you. She thinks you're great." And Isabel's like, "What the f? Why does she want to stay here with me?" And he's like, "I can't have her stay alone in the apartment. Blah blah blah. This will be good for you." And Isabel is like pissed. She doesn't even want to deal with this because Ava's kind of obnoxious. She stomps around the house. She's always touching stuff and like she's loud and intrusive and she's always trying to talk to Isabel. And Isabel's just like, I don't want to talk to you. So you get further into the story and you start to learn about the backstory of Ava, and also like once Ava moves in, and there's also the housekeeper Neelke that comes around and she takes care of the house. She's there like every other day. She's a younger girl and she's 18, and you get this like story about I believe it was like Neelke's mother. Isabel had tried to have like a friend once when she was younger. Neelke's mother had come over and wouldn't stop talking about how her brother was handsome and this, that, and the other. And Isabel like got really mad and bitter. And then she left. And like that was the end of Isabel trying to make friends with people ever again. She like bit this girl. So, man, Isabel, she's a piece of work, let me tell you. Throughout the story, she almost seems like she's trapped in her own skin, right? Until at some point she starts to bloom into her own self. And this book, I had no idea what to expect. I just kind of read the synopsis and I thought it sounded interesting. I was like, oh, what? This brother just dumps his girlfriend off with his sister and is like, well, you have her. And then he just like takes off. And so she's there with her for several months. And eventually they start to talk a bit more, and then they start to have a relationship with each other and get to know each other more. And then you start to get into Ava's background and her story, and it's like there's so much emotion and heartbreak and just why Ava wanted to stay with Isabel, like the actual reason. Did she really think Isabel was great and really liked her? Like that's something you have to read the book to find out. But it's a really beautiful and heartbreaking, it's a historical fiction, so you have like the aftermath of the war, because the house that they move into, it had been a Jewish family's house, and while they couldn't pay the mortgage because the father was in a concentration camp, so that house ended up being sold off to Isabel's family, and Isabel doesn't learn this until way later in life. And then she goes and she talks to her uncle about this, and she's like, did all the stuff in the house come with it? Because like all the stuff that was in the house wasn't even theirs. Like all the dishes and the furniture like was just there. So they're using the stuff from a family that had been murdered in concentration camps. And so you have that whole story in the background and just like the way the war affected these people's lives. So you have all that, and it's emotional, it's intense, and it's beautiful, and it's sad, and it's so many things. It really blew me away. The writing is immersive and you get into these characters, and at first will be annoyed with Ava, and then she becomes somewhat charming. And then even Isabel, like as she starts to let go of some of that bitterness and just find herself in who she is and why she's all wound up and like tight in the way that she is, and explore different avenues and all this stuff. It's a really beautiful and moving story. This book won awards for a reason. It's fantastic. The writing's great. The characters are great. Just the way the characters experience things in these books and how they react, it flows very natural. It speaks to a moment in time. And yeah, like I said, if you like historical fiction, if that sounds interesting to you, definitely check out The Safekeep by Yael Van Der Wouden. It's an absolutely fantastic read. Would recommend. And if you enjoyed hanging out today, hit that subscribe button, come back, see me again, and we'll talk about more bookish things and weird stuff.